What's up, light of the world? Hey, God bless you. Hey, it's your favorite pastor. We are live and direct here on our Tuesday night. I'm excited about it. Many of you that are joining us, jumping on the live now. I'm sending virtual hugs to you. Of course, we can't hug in person. And so I'm on hug deficiency right now. So we need to make sure that you show me some love as you're jumping on here. So here's where we're at, because many of you already know we've been cooped up in our houses for 3 weeks plus now. Many of you are on the edge. You don't like any of your family members, none of them at the current moment. And so we kind of wrestling with some stuff and dealing with some issues. And so just let's be truthful about some stuff. Just do me a favor, raise your hands real quick in the chat room if you're ready to go on a vacation. And not a family vacation, one just by yourself. Like you're just gonna leave your spouse and your kids and let them do whatever they're gonna do. And you're just gonna go off by yourself on your lonesome because you don't want to see nobody for a good, at least a week. We need a week break from everybody in you that you related to that has your last name. And so tonight, despite what Lady Keisha says about me, I do not know everything, or at least I don't think I know everything. And so we are, these past couple of Tuesdays, been taking the opportunity to have certain conversations on Tuesday nights to address a number of different issues, topics that many of us are wrestling with during this current pandemic. And not only that, this allows us to kind of be engaged, because one of the things about virtual church or being online is being able to do this thing from a perspective of still having community and building and touching and loving on people, even from a distance. And so for what we've been doing the past couple of weeks has been trying to build our community as best as possible. And so I say that because from time to time, we will kind of bring some people on with me to talk, from a couple of different areas, particular areas that I personally don't have, a whole lot of knowledge on. I'm not going to act and say, hey, I know everything about everything. And so I bring people on that are smarter than me in their respective fields. And so, of course, the past couple of weeks, we had a chance to talk finance. I had my guy, Alan Costa, come in last week. You can go back and watch that video on our Light of the World page. Myself, Lady Keisha, we kind of taught on parenting, how to manage, your kids during this time frame, and not quite lose your mind all the way across the board. And so tonight, I want to kind of tackle from an area of mentality and talk mentally and how we're managing our mental health. And as of course, we believe your mental health is mental wealth, and so we want to kind of talk about make sure that your head is right, your heart is right, etc. And so I brought in not only a certified doctor. Not only a certified doctor, but also a certified Light of the World family member.
Yeah.
Going to have this conversation. One of the things I am super duper proud about, and I boast as well, not from my standpoint, but from those who come in. We have become an attraction, not even attraction. I don't even know the best word for it. We've become a place where I am proud of the amalgam of people that walk through our doors. We got everything from people on dope to people who sold dope to people who cure people from dope. And so we have everything from GEDs to doctorate degrees. And so we have a number of doctors that have been a part of our family throughout the years. And I've had the wonderful pleasure of seeing them matriculate from not only just grad school to practices, et cetera. And so this is one of our babies, Kiera. Now Banks, when she came to our church, wasn't even married. This is a shout out of hope to all of my single people. She came to us single and left out married. And so I said, let me kind of grab her and glean her in all the way from the dirty, A-town down. Allow her to kind of come in and share from a mental health perspective. Kiera, go ahead and introduce yourself and then give your background in terms of what all the letters are behind your name and all that kind of stuff and what you kind of do and practice, etc.
Of course. So I'm Kiera. I'm Q. My family knows me as Q. So my Light of the World family, y'all know me as Q, Dr. Q. But I am a trained and licensed clinical psychologist here in the state of Georgia. I got trained at the University of Cincinnati. So I'm a Bearcat, and then made my way down here to Atlanta for my internship and my postdoc. So I'm actually right now a staff member at the Atlanta VA. And so I provide mental health services to our nation's heroes. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Awesome. So number one, thank you for joining us in this conversation. And so tonight we've talked those who are part of Light of the World know we have taught mental health before. I've done series and teaching from a spiritual standpoint and kind of deal with mental health. And so typically what happens is we talk mental health, people tend to graft in mental issues. And then once you graft in mental issues, then we tend to label people as crazy. But let's be real about some stuff. We all a little bit crazy in some degree.
Right.
Some people are surface level crazy. Some people are closet crazy. I'm somewhere in between where I kind of let everything kind of go depending on the day. And so I want to kind of go from a different perspective tonight when we kind of talk about mental health in terms of this kind of, we got people who are stir crazy right now, have been in this house for 3 weeks, and as well as we got people who are chilling like myself and ain't tripping because we in the house anyway. And so we kind of talk about a couple of different personality types and how to best manage and practice this time period in which we're kind of operating in terms of how that works for that particular person. Because this season is different for everybody and how everybody else manages it. So when we kind of start off, Kiera, I want you to kind of let's talk about our extroverts, our people who are used to being social, butterflies in the life of the party and want to kick it and want to go party and they can't do nothing. Let's kind of talk about how best practices for them that need to be around people to survive. Like they can't do it. Particularly not even just our extroverts, but extroverted and maybe single with no kids. And so they literally in the house by themselves tripping because they ain't got nothing right now except for social media and that may be it. That may be their only outlet and their only way in terms of being able to kind of handle stuff. So we'll kind of jump off with our extroverts and then kind of matriculate from there.
Sure. So first of all, Pastor, I always have the utmost respect for you because you're never afraid to talk about mental health aspects, spiritual aspects, and how these all work together. So I'm just honored and excited to have this conversation. So when we think about extroverts, commonly these are individuals who get their re-energized around people, right? So these are the people that want to be the life of the party. These are the people that are at barbecues. These are the people that are going to movies with big groups of friends. We'll talk about introverts, but we'll contrast them from introverts in that introverts like to get energized by being by themselves, right? They need some alone time. They need to refuel by themselves. They're around a crowd of people and their battery is drained. Mm-hmm. And so right now we're seeing some vast differences in how people might approach this isolation. For extroverts, it's hard. It really is hard, not gonna lie, because your freedom has essentially been kind of stripped right now. Mm-hmm. And so right now, your main form of communicating with people is through technology. And for an extrovert, these are the people like Lady Keisha who like to hug on people, right? Who like to touch, who like to have those intimate conversations and be around people and feel rejuvenized around people. And so for our extroverts, and for our introverts, but more so for our extroverts, we might see more depression during this time, right? And I describe depression as kind of the wet blanket. Depression slows everything down. You don't want to get up. You don't want to get out of bed. Some extroverts might even think, if I can't go to my best friend's house, if I can't go shopping, if I can't go to the mall, what's the point of even getting dressed, right? What's the point of even getting up and having any type of structure to my day? And then on top of that, you have the chaos of we're still being asked to work. Some of us are working from home. Some of us are having to go out and still work. Some of us are facing job loss and financial stressors. And so for the extrovert who's likely used to shaking and moving and getting things done and, I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm problem solving, for our introverts too. But for our extroverts who are used to being out and about, and that's where they get their energy. If you add on top of that, I can't leave the house. My social support network, who I'm used to being around, I'm no longer able to be around them like I'm used to. And then on top of that, I've got financial worries. I've got work worries. I've got just things that I'm thinking about that I can't go out and be energized like I'm used to. It really can create a depressive episode, a depressive atmosphere. And I know we talk a lot right now about families. So the parents are pulling their hair out because their kids. But I'm so glad that you mentioned those who don't have kids, don't have a spouse, don't have a roommate. Imagine being an extrovert and then not even only having the four walls around you, right? And that's it. And so this could be a very isolating and very lonely time for people who are used to being recharged by being around other people.
Yeah, and I joke with my extroverted friends because I say, hey, go check on your extroverted friends because right now they're not doing well because they used to kind of being out there and going to kick it. And so conversely, this is now where I want to kind of turn that. Look at the other side of it from the introverted perspective, because we chilling, like, we like, hey, like I was built for this moment in my entire life. I'm not worried about anything. And so that's where I kind of fall into that, that mindset. So for those who don't know, I am introverted by nature. And so when you see me from a preaching perspective or even in ministry, hugging people, all that other stuff, that's Holy Spirit. That's all Holy Spirit.
Yes.
I come home and take a nap. I got to recharge. I got to get my power pellets back up. I literally, in fact, I took a nap today because I had to go do ministry. So I did outreach, came home, took a nap. It's like, okay, now let's get back together. Let's get back together. But being in the house, however, I think I went out. We had to, do ministry stuff last week. But then I hadn't left the house for like 4 or 5 days prior to that. And it was just like, I didn't trip. I wasn't thinking anything about it. So kind of deal from an introverted perspective now, conversely, as we kind of talked about from the extroverted side and how they're kind of wrestling with certain things and not being able to touch people, kind of now deal with introverted individuals as well as, so here's where the tricky part comes in, introverted people who are now in the house with extroverted people because we're fine when we're in the house by ourselves.
Right.
Now I'm in the house with you, and I'm like, why are you still here? Why don't you go somewhere? Because I need my space and my time alone.
Right. All good points. So first I want to make the distinction. So for individuals who are introverted, that's different from individuals who, introversion is different from isolation.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So for introverts, they might enjoy being around people from time to time, but they want the freedom to be able to say, okay, y'all, check my phone, I'm out, right?
Like, I'll holler at y'all later.
Bye, goodbye, don't, I'm not texting back, I'm not accepting.
I may not even say bye. I'm just gonna walk off into the sunset.
Yes. So for introverts, that freedom and that certainty to be able to say, right now, I want to be by myself, uninterrupted, and do what I want to do, that is key. Mm-hmm. And so for introverts, yes, you all may be able to be in this quarantine for a longer period of time than an extrovert before like pulling your hair out. But I think what comes up for the introvert is a little bit of anxiety, because there's this uncertainty of like, when is this going to end? Okay, I've been in the house, I'm here, but now I need a change of scenery. I need a change of pace. And for you, that might be 20 days into the quarantine as opposed to our extroverts where it's 5 days into the quarantine. But I think that we want to make a distinction here between isolation, where I'm choosing for a long amount of time because of my depression or because of my anxiety to be alone, versus an introvert who says, I like the freedom to come and go as I please. Right. And so for the introverts, we're going to see similar things to the extroverts, but we just might see it a little bit later on. Mm. Now, for those individuals like Pastor Mike and Lady Keisha, who might have difference in how they socialize and communicate, introvert versus extrovert, we joke and we laugh about this, but I think particularly during this time of quarantine, this is there's a lot of space for division. There's a lot of space for miscommunication. There's a lot of space for interpersonal issues, right? And so you're going to have the introvert that says, please give me some time. Like I'm not up and going and moving and ready to talk. And I need an hour after I wake up to do my thing and to ease into this day. You have the extrovert who says, you're my only person that I can talk to and touch and be around. Please, 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 I need that attention. And so for my couples out there, for my roommates out there, for my marriages out there, have the same kind of fail safes in place as you're at home and around each other. If you know your mate needs some time, give them that time. Also, introverts, if you know that your mate has given you that time and now you got to go and talk with them and meet with them and commune with them, then do that as well. We don't want the quarantine to be a time where seeds of division are planted.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's a great point where this time of quote unquote being in the house should be maximized with those that are in the house. Where
Right.
you're able to build up on that family time and be able to, get to, I think even for parents, those who have children, that's a great time to even get to know your kids, depending on,
Yes.
even regardless of what their age differences and brackets fall in. Kids are weird. And so it's a great time to kind of get to understand them better and kind of talk to them. I've been learning how to play Fortnite. Mike got me down here shooting people. And so it's been an outlet for me. So I get to shoot people all day and then at the same time kick it with my son. And, we kind of get a chance to kind of come from different perspectives. So this, I think that's a great piece where being able to take advantage of that time and say, hey, while we're here, let's just not just exist. Let's kind of maximize these moments together.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Touch on those who, as we kind of, address from the beginning, touch on those who are battling with mental issues and struggling to certain different capacities. So when we talk about I think you did a good segue. We talked about anxiety and wrestling with certain things. So how do those who may deal with anxiety or any other particular, mental issue, however you want to kind of label it, address how those individuals should best handle, or best practices, I think, is another way of looking at it.
So this time can be particularly triggering for people who have a history of trauma, who have a history of anxiety, are worriers. This is a really triggering time in the world for individuals who have issue with worry. We call it rumination, where you're thinking about the same thing over and over and over again. I can be an overthinker, but this is beyond just overthinking. So if you have a history of PTSD or of generalized anxiety or a trauma history, if you're a worrier and overthinker, first I want to say that I understand, and this is a particularly trying time for you, because what the coronavirus represents for someone who has anxiety is, again, a never-ending worst case scenario. We don't know when this is going to end, uncertainty, right? For the anxious mind, that's the worst, right? Anxious people like to have things black or white, right? It either is or it isn't. I know when this is going to end. Where's the vaccine? Where's the mask? What do I need, right? And so they're on hyper mode, right? For the depressed person sees the coronavirus as kind of like I told you so, right? Like, I told you life was the worst, right? I told you bad things happen. Kind of that Eeyore effect of, we're not, but we're probably all going to die. And, so they both arrive at the same conclusion of the worst case scenario. There's just different ways in which that might play out for the depressed person versus the anxious person. And so I think the first thing you can do, number one, right, is to have some structure in your day. If you're spending 8 hours on Facebook, on CNN, on Instagram, and all you're hearing is more evidence of why the world is in a really bad place right now, that's only going to exacerbate your depression and your anxiety. You have, listen to me, y'all. You have more than enough information. Turn it off. There's nothing else you need to know. You know what you need to do. You need to wash your hands. You need to stay inside. You need to stay away from people. You don't need any more news. Okay, so turn it off. Instead, create routines that work for you. I tell my depressed patients and my patients with anxiety, if you don't do nothing else, you need to set 3 kind of markers in your day when you wake up, midday, and mid-afternoon of where you're going to do something all the time. Okay, so whether that's having breakfast, reading your word, drinking some tea in the morning, communing with your spouse or your kids, or checking in with family by phone, and then at nighttime doing some exercise, going for a walk. Y'all, we can go for walks. We're allowed to do that, right? So going for walks, playing in the backyard. You need to have some structure in your day. So I think those are turn off the TV, turn off the Instagram, the social media, the news, get some structure in your day and do things that bring you joy.
I think that's good. And I think one of the things as well that we brought up as we talked finances, we talked, some of our what to do points. Now kind of jump into what not to do points. Like, what are some things that you say, hey, here's what you don't do. I talked about a little bit in terms of not sitting there watching the news all day, because of course, they just out here rolling the dice anyway. So it's kind of the information that changes from day to day. They don't really know. We don't really know. And so what are some other areas in terms of what not to do during this time period?
Okay. Don't stop going to your mental health providers.
Mm.
Okay. So if you are already engaged in mental health treatment, meaning you're seeing a therapist, you're taking medication, do not stop that. Okay. Don't stop that. The second thing is watch substance use. Y'all, this is a really big time where you can get kind of enticed to be drinking more alcohol, to be smoking weed. I'm not trying to be funny, but like you have all these hours in the day, especially if you're working from home or unfortunately not working right now, where it'd be really easy to lose track of time. And substance use for individuals with mood disorders or with mental health disorders, those are ways to self-medicate in a very unhealthy way. So if you're noticing that a glass of wine is turning into a pint or, you know, a liter of something, then I would really take some steps to kind of cut back. That's going to be most important.
No, that's
Also,
very big.
Yeah, for sure. Also, watch the company you keep. Just like news stories and things like that can get the mind going towards worst case scenario. If every conversation you're having with friends and family is, I don't know how we gonna deal with this, and I don't know what's gonna come out of this, and I'm scared, and those are valid points. But every conversation, I would be weary of that. Mm-hmm. Try not to have every conversation be about the coronavirus, right?
Absolutely.
Because again, that's feeding your mind things that are going to increase your anxiety and depression. And then the next thing is, don't be lazy. Don't be. I mean, I'm not saying be uber productive because, you know, there is the stress of what's going on out in the world. But clean your house, take care of your body, eat good foods. Teach your children because they're not going back to school, y'all. So have homework time, have lesson plans, get creative. This is the time to be creative. Think about it. What other time are you going to be forced to be in your home around people that you love? Or if you're single, you can call people, FaceTime people. But what other time in your life are you going to have uninterrupted time to be sat down? So those things that you kind of put off because work got in the way, because this thing got in the way and that thing got in the way, plant a garden, right? Yeah. Read your word, right? Nourish your body, nourish your mind, nourish your spirit. This is the perfect time to turn something that is undoubtedly a tragedy in some people's lives into something that you can use to make the best out of a situation.
No, that is awesome. And I'm glad you even brought up in terms of managing and here's why I'm using my psychological word that I learned in grief recovery, STIRBs that happen in your life. Was it short-term energy releasing behaviors? I think I said all that correctly. Right. So this is a good time to kind of manage those and make sure that you're not overindulging in certain areas, because right now the wine man and the weed man are very popular. Yes. They are hustling out here. So right. you have to manage all that, particularly when you know that you have certain mental issues or moods that you'll kind of fall in. Those things would simply just heighten those typically. And not that many of y'all got glaucoma. It's not, y'all can see fine. And so there shouldn't be that much weed floating through the city right now. So I'm glad you kind of brought that up. So now here's what we'll kind of close out on things in terms of how to manage, because we talked about a little bit, we had a session this past weekend for our parents that are watching. We had a session this past weekend kind of dealing with our youth and how they kind of manage things from a mental perspective. So that's why we said we wanted to make sure we talk to our adults. But how do you now address things to kind of reiterate some stuff as it relates to parents with kids that may have missed that session, kind of speak towards kids that are in the house and are wrestling in certain areas, and different personality types, and kind of make sure they're in the right mode and right frame of mind?
Absolutely, that's a great question. I think the framework and the mindset going into this needs to be one in which you say to yourself, we're all on the same team. Okay. At the end of the day, you're a family, right? So as you go into your day, go into it with low expectations. And what I mean by that is you're not going to get 500 things accomplished in a day when everybody's at home, right? The kids have to do this. You have to do this as a parent. Your spouse needs this. Your pet needs that. And so go into the day knowing that we have 3 focuses, right? Whether that be the lesson plan or cooking a meal together as a family. Y'all, there's no really right way to do a quarantine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so I would really urge you guys to have some compassion on, for yourself, for our parents, for our single parents out there who might have one kid at home, multiple kids at home, who knows? And you don't have a partner maybe in the house with you, kind of assisting you. Be kind to yourself. You are doing the best that you can by being present with your kids. That's what they're going to remember. They might not remember that you didn't teach them Common Core math, right? But they're going to remember that you were there, that they got to read books with you, they got to watch TV with you. You taught them something new and that you were present. And so take it easy. Be calm, have lower expectations, really utilize this family time. And remember, you're all on the same team. Your kids don't want to be cooped up with you as much as you do not want to be cooped up with them.
Absolutely. They want to be free right now.
They want to be free, right? And you might have children who are introverts or extroverts as well. And so they might need some time, right? They're used to getting off the school bus and maybe you're not home. And so they're used to having some time where they can kind of woosah. And so just be mindful that different family members are going to need different things from you, and keep that dialogue open. Keep that dialogue open.
That's awesome. And so also something that you mentioned in terms of making sure that you're keeping your regular routine in terms of if you have therapists, et cetera. How are therapists managing this time of being separated with everybody? So are you guys video conferencing? Like how are those meetings transpiring?
Right. So I will say, and you'll know this is if this is you. If you and your therapist consider you to be more higher risk, meaning you might have more suicidal thoughts or some self-harming behaviors or what have you, the emergency services that you and your therapist set up have not gone away. Okay, so just know you always have 911. You always have the crisis hotline, the National Suicide Crisis Hotline. I'm sure your therapist has given you tools or something in case things start to elevate that you can use to be safe. So just know none of the safety measures, to my knowledge, have gone away. Okay. For those of you who don't fit in that category but are still getting mental health treatment, we do a lot of telehealth. So the way that I'm speaking with Dr. Pastor Mike, both work. The way that we're kind of meeting right now, that's how I'm meeting with my clients. So we're doing what we call telehealth or video conferencing. And so wherever my clients are in Georgia, if they have a Android, iPhone, or a computer, they can meet with me and still have their therapy.
Awesome. And so now this is separate. So now even with this advent of being able to do conferencing with individuals, are you allowed to now accept clients from different cities and different states because you can now Zoom back and forth?
Right. So the laws differ. So unfortunately, I'm not allowed to Zoom with a client in Ohio. I'm still, my state still has laws that say I can only practice in Georgia because I'm licensed in Georgia. However, there are different platforms like Talkspace or like other types of platforms where if you need a therapist like that, you need to talk to somebody like that, you can get onto these platforms and be connected with a therapist who's licensed wherever, right? And you don't have to worry about that as the client. You just log on, set it up, and you'll be connected with a therapist. So there's many ways to do this.
Thank you. So now, any last remarks that you want to kind of share with everybody as we're getting ready to wrap this thing up and, set everybody on their way? Any last remarks that you want to share with everybody?
Sure. The Bible talks about how anxiety can really throw us off, really mess us up. But it also says that a good word can help bring down that anxiety, can help soften that depression. And so obviously, as a Christian and a therapist, I understand who my source is, right? That doesn't mean, though, that I invalidate the experiences of people who might be anxious, who might be depressed, who might just be stressed about how they're going to make ends meet. And when is the end going to be to all of this? And so I guess my final word here is that what you're going through and how you feel about that is okay. Don't allow things, or try not to allow things to overtake you. if you're getting negativity, the news, social media, whatever, turn it off. Do what you can to protect your peace. That's what I'll say. And your peace and your source should come from Christ, and he is always available 24/7. Okay.
Absolutely.
But absolutely do what you can to healthily protect your peace. And we're gonna make it through this, y'all. We gonna get through it. We gonna be all right.
Well, that's a good place to end off on. So, Kiera, we thank Dr. Q.
Of course.
We thank you for this time and this opportunity. All my Light of the World folk, you know, we love you. We're excited about what God is up to in your life. Hey, this is, once again, we're going to come out of this better than we did going into it. This is now taking opportunities to build up on certain practices and opportunities in our lives to kind of hone in on and become better in. And so I'm excited about it. Let's get productive. Let's go turn the world upside down. And then not only that, let's get ready for Resurrection Sunday. You know, shameless plug. I need you to make sure that you're tuned in. You're tagging everybody and their mama to be watching. We're going to be on Facebook Live, on YouTube Live. And so even if you don't have a Facebook account, you can jump on YouTube. We're going to be everywhere. You're going to see my face, and we going in. We changing up the flow and everything. We got some exciting stuff. Jumping into it. So once again, Q, we're excited. Thank you. We'll be in Atlanta when the Walking Dead season is over with. When we're able to be free again, we'll come down and come kick it. And then of course you already know, y'all are more than welcome to come stay in our house. Not everybody gets that. That opportunity. So you're more than welcome to stay in our house when you come through Cincinnati. So love you. Thank you, all my Light of the World family, friends, visitors, guests, etc. Love you all. Drop comments. Throw some hugs in the comment section. We want to see you grow crazy. Just blow this thing up. Share with everybody you know. Tag some crazy people in your family. Make sure they get all this information as we get ready to bring this thing to a head. So love you. Talk to you later. God bless. See you soon.